I should have stopped the wedding when I heard someone whispering from inside the locked bathroom. It was less than an hour before the ceremony, and I was standing alone in the hallway, trying to calm myself down, when I heard a woman quietly say, "He's already here." I checked the bathroom door. Locked. I knocked. "Hello?" Nothing. Then I heard a second voice. Mine. "He isn't supposed to be here." I stepped back so fast that I nearly dropped my phone. I remember thinking that somebody had to be playing a joke on me, but there was nobody else in the hallway. I was getting married that afternoon, and until that moment, everything had been completely normal. I unlocked the bathroom with the spare key. Nobody was inside. The lights were off. The room smelled faintly like hairspray and flowers. I checked every stall anyway. Empty. I stood there for a few seconds listening. Nothing. Then the light suddenly switched on behind me. I jumped and turned around. The door was still open. Nobody was standing there. I walked back toward the main room and tried to laugh it off. My friend was waiting near the entrance. "You look pale," my friend said. "I heard something." "What?" "I don't know." I didn't tell my friend about the second voice. It sounded ridiculous even in my own head. A few minutes later, I heard someone calling for me. I followed the voice into a small side room where the wedding decorations were being stored. The woman helping with the decorations was standing there. "You left this," she said. She held out a small envelope. I recognized it immediately. It was the envelope I had placed inside my jacket that morning. It contained the handwritten vows I planned to read during the ceremony. I checked my jacket. The envelope was gone. I stared at it. "Where did you find that?" "On the floor." "Did you open it?" "No." I took it from her. The flap was still sealed. I felt relieved. Then I noticed something. The handwriting on the front wasn't mine. It was my handwriting, but the letters were slightly different. The words said, "Do not read these out loud." I looked at the woman. She looked back at me. "I didn't write that." She shook her head. I didn't either. I tore the envelope open. My actual vows were inside. Nothing had been changed. I folded them back up and shoved them into my pocket. I told myself someone had seen the vows earlier and copied my handwriting as a prank. That explanation worked for about 10 minutes. Then the music stopped. The room went completely silent. Everyone turned toward the sound system. The music restarted a few seconds later. Nobody seemed concerned. I was, because just before the music came back, I heard a quiet recording through the speakers. My voice. "Please don't let them open the door." I looked at my friend. My friend looked at me. "Was that you?" "No." The music continued. I walked toward the sound system. Someone had left a phone connected to it. I picked it up. The screen showed an audio file. The title was simply Ceremony. I didn't press play. I didn't need to. The file started by itself. I heard footsteps. Then breathing. Then my voice again. "I can hear someone outside." The recording ended. The phone went black. I handed it to my friend. "Who brought this?" My friend didn't know. We asked around. Nobody admitted to it. The person managing the music said the phone had not been there earlier. That was the first moment I seriously considered leaving. But there were people everywhere. My family was there. My friends were there. Everything had cost money. And honestly, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be the person who canceled a wedding because I heard a strange recording. So I stayed. The ceremony began. I walked toward the front. I didn't look toward the hallway. I didn't look at the bathroom. I didn't look at the side room. I just focused on the person standing across from me. Then I heard 3 knocks, not from the door, from underneath the floor. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Nobody else reacted. I heard them again. Knock, knock, knock. I looked down. Nothing. The ceremony continued. I tried to ignore it. Then something brushed against the back of my ankle. I jumped. I looked down. There was nothing there. Afterward, I asked my friend if anyone had touched me. My friend said no. I didn't mention the knocking. I was starting to feel stupid again. The reception began. People ate. People talked. Someone dropped a glass. The music played. For almost an hour, nothing strange happened. I finally started relaxing. Then I noticed my jacket was missing. I had left it over the back of a chair. I checked the chair. Nothing. I asked my friend. We searched the nearby room. Still nothing. Then I heard a sound behind me. A hanger scraping across the floor. I turned. My jacket was hanging from a hook inside a small storage room. The door was closed. I opened it. Nobody was inside. I grabbed the jacket. Something hard was inside the pocket. I pulled it out. It was a small voice recorder. I had never seen it before. There was one recording on it. I pressed play. At first, I heard nothing. Then I heard the sound of my own footsteps. The recording was from earlier that day. I recognized the hallway. I heard myself walking toward the bathroom. Then I heard my voice say, "I know you're in there." I stopped the recording. I had never said that. At least I didn't remember saying it. My friend took the recorder from me. Maybe somebody edited this. Probably. Neither of us sounded convinced. Then the recorder clicked. It started playing another section by itself. This time, there was a woman's voice, very quiet. "He's waiting for the door." Then I heard a loud bang. The recording ended. I looked toward the hallway. The bathroom door was open. I knew it had been closed. My friend noticed it too. We walked over. Inside, everything looked normal, except for the mirror. Someone had written something across it with a finger. The words were barely visible through the condensation. "He came in with you." I felt every hair on my arms stand up. My friend wiped the mirror. The words disappeared. "Okay," my friend said. "We're leaving." I nodded. We started walking toward the main room. Then I heard footsteps behind us. Slow, bare feet against the floor. We stopped. The footsteps stopped. I turned around. The hallway was empty. My friend whispered, "Don't." We kept walking. The footsteps followed. One step, then another. Then another. I looked over my shoulder. Nothing. We reached the main room. The footsteps stopped. Nobody had noticed. I wanted to tell everyone to leave. Instead, I stood there pretending to smile. A few minutes later, someone announced that it was time to cut the cake. I walked toward the table. The cake knife was lying beside the cake. I reached for it. My hand stopped. There was a folded piece of paper underneath the knife. I opened it. It contained one sentence. "Ask who was in the bathroom before you." I looked around. I asked the woman helping with the decorations. She said nobody had been inside. I asked my friend. Nothing. Then I remembered the first thing I had heard. "He's already here." I went back to the bathroom. The door was locked again. I unlocked it. The room was empty, but the vent above the mirror was slightly open. I pulled a chair over and looked inside. There was a narrow space behind it. I reached in. My fingers touched something, a plastic bag. I pulled it out. Inside were dozens of small things, receipts, hair clips, old photographs, pieces of paper, and several wedding invitations. They were all from different years. Every invitation had one thing in common, a handwritten note on the back. I was there. I dropped the bag. My friend stared at it. "Who has been hiding these?" "I don't know." Then I noticed something underneath the invitations, a small key. Attached to it was a metal tag. The tag had a single number. I recognized it. It matched the storage room. We went back. The room was empty, except for one locked cabinet I hadn't noticed before. The key fit. Inside was a small monitor. It was connected to an old camera. The screen showed the hallway outside the bathroom. We watched the footage. There was nothing unusual. Then the timestamp changed. The video jumped backward. I watched myself walk past the camera. But I wasn't alone. Someone was walking several feet behind me. I couldn't see the person's face. They followed me into the hallway. Then the video froze. My friend whispered, "That's impossible." I watched the frozen image. The person behind me wasn't looking at me. They were looking directly into the camera. Then the screen went black. A second later, the camera feed returned. The hallway was empty. I looked at my friend. Who is that? I don't know. Then we heard a door slam somewhere behind us. We ran out of the storage room. The main room was still full. Everyone was laughing. Nobody had heard anything. I decided the wedding was over for me. I told my friend I wanted to leave. We went outside. The driver was waiting. I got into the vehicle and shut the door. My hands were shaking. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Nothing, just breathing. I whispered, "Who is this?" The caller didn't answer. Instead, I heard my own voice. But this time, it wasn't a recording from earlier. It sounded like my voice from the ceremony. "I never told you to leave." The call ended. I stared at the screen. My friend looked at me. What did they say? Before I could answer, someone knocked on the vehicle window. I jumped. It was the driver. The driver pointed toward the back seat. There was something lying there. My wedding vows. I had left them inside the building. I picked them up. The envelope was open. I unfolded the paper. My vows were still there. But at the bottom, underneath my handwriting, someone had added one final sentence. "Now you know why I wasn't invited." I still don't know who wrote it. I never found the person from the camera. Nobody admitted to placing the recordings. The strange thing is that everyone I asked afterward remembered the wedding differently. Some people remembered hearing the music stop. Some remembered nothing. One person remembered seeing someone standing in the hallway. But when I asked who it was, nobody could describe them. I eventually got the wedding video from the person who recorded it. I watched the entire thing alone. For almost 2 hours, everything looked normal. Then I reached the ceremony. I watched myself walking toward the front. I watched everyone turn toward me. And then I noticed something I hadn't seen that day. At the exact moment I heard the 3 knocks beneath the floor, the camera briefly pointed toward the back of the room. There was someone standing behind a closed door, only for 2 seconds. Then the camera moved away. I paused the video. I zoomed in. The person was holding something, a small voice recorder, and they were wearing the same clothes I had been wearing all morning. I checked the recording again. This time, I noticed something else. The person wasn't standing behind the door. They were standing on my side of it, and the door was between them and the camera. I still can't explain how. I deleted the video. I threw away the recorder. I never found the person. But about 3 months later, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph from my wedding. It showed me standing alone in the hallway. The bathroom door was behind me, and reflected in the mirror was someone standing directly at my shoulder. I couldn't see the face, but I could see the hand. It was holding my wedding vows. On the back of the photograph, there was one sentence. "You never asked who was standing behind you." I haven't looked at that photograph since. But I still keep wondering about the first recording, because the voice that whispered, "He's already here," wasn't warning me about someone entering the wedding. It was warning me that someone had already been there, and somehow they knew exactly when I would arrive. I still don't know who was sitting in the last row during my wedding. I know how that sounds. I know people are going to say it was a guest, a photographer, or someone I simply didn't notice. I wish it were that simple, because the person in that chair wasn't on the guest list. And according to the security footage, nobody sat there. My wedding was supposed to be the one day when everything felt normal. Instead, about 20 minutes before the ceremony, I heard someone whisper my voice from inside the empty dressing room. "Don't go out there." I froze. The voice sounded exactly like mine. I was standing alone in front of the mirror, already dressed, holding my phone in one hand. For a few seconds, I honestly thought someone was playing a recording. Then the door behind me clicked shut. I turned around. Nobody was there. I opened the door immediately and looked into the hallway. My friend was standing several feet away, talking to someone. "Did you say something?" I asked. My friend looked confused. "No." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. Then I heard the whisper again. This time, it came from the hallway. "Don't go out there." I looked at my friend. "Did you hear that?" My friend stopped smiling. "Hear what?" Before I could answer, someone knocked 3 times on the dressing room door. Not loudly, just 3 slow knocks. My friend opened it. The hallway was empty. That should have been the first warning. Instead, I convinced myself it was nerves. About 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. There was no text, just an audio recording. I almost deleted it. Then I heard my own voice. "Don't go out there." The recording lasted 4 seconds. I played it again. Same voice, same whisper. But underneath it, there was something else. A faint sound. Footsteps. I showed my friend. My friend stared at the screen. "Did you record that?" "No. Maybe someone sent it as a joke." "Who?" My friend didn't answer. The ceremony started a few minutes later. I walked out anyway. The room was full. People were standing and smiling. Phones were raised. Music was playing. For a few seconds, everything looked completely normal. Then I noticed the last row. There was one empty chair. Except it wasn't empty. Someone was sitting in it. I couldn't see the person's face because the lighting was dim in that part of the room. They were wearing dark clothes. Their head was lowered. I almost stopped walking. Then someone behind me whispered, "Keep going." I did. I told myself it was probably someone who had arrived late. But something about the person bothered me. They never moved. Not once. During the entire ceremony, I kept looking toward that chair. Every time I looked, the person was there, head down, hands folded, completely still. At one point, I noticed something strange. The chair beside them was empty. The chair on the other side was empty too. There was nobody sitting anywhere near them. After the ceremony, I asked my friend about it. Who was sitting in the back? My friend frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The person in the last row." "There wasn't anyone there." "I saw someone." My friend looked toward the chairs. The last row was completely empty. Every chair had been pushed neatly underneath the table behind it. I felt stupid. "Maybe they left." My friend shrugged. "Probably." I wanted to believe that. Then we started taking pictures. That's when things got worse. Someone showed me a group photo taken during the ceremony. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. I was looking toward the back row. And behind me, reflected in a glass panel, was the same person. Dark clothes, head lowered, standing directly behind my chair. I zoomed in. The reflection showed something the actual room hadn't. The person was holding a phone. I felt my stomach drop. I checked the original photo again. There was nobody behind me, only the reflection. I asked someone who had taken the picture to send me the original file. They did. Same thing. I started thinking about the recording, the unknown number, the whisper, the person in the reflection. I called the number. It rang once, then someone answered. I didn't say anything. Neither did they. I could hear breathing, slow, close. Then my own voice whispered through the phone. "You're looking in the wrong place." The call ended. I stood there staring at the screen. My friend saw my face. "What happened?" I handed over the phone. Before my friend could say anything, the music system in the room suddenly switched on. There was no music, just static. Then a recording started playing. My voice. Again. "You're looking in the wrong place." Everyone nearby turned toward the speakers. Someone laughed nervously. I didn't. I knew I hadn't recorded it. The sound technician came over and switched everything off. He looked embarrassed. "Sorry, I don't know how that happened." Neither did I. I left the room for a few minutes because I needed air. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear my shoes against the floor. Then I heard another pair of footsteps behind me. I stopped. They stopped. I took one step. They took one step. I turned around. Nobody. I waited. Nothing. Then something touched the back of my shoulder. I jumped and spun around. It was my friend. "Sorry," my friend said. "I didn't mean to scare you." I stared at my friend's hand.
You touched my shoulder? Yeah. I looked down. There was a small dark mark on the back of my jacket, like a fingerprint. My friend hadn't left it. The fingers were too long.
I wiped it away. That was when I noticed a door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly open. I remembered seeing it closed earlier. I walked toward it. My friend followed. Inside was a small storage room. Boxes, old decorations, extra chairs. Nothing unusual. Then I saw a stack of photographs on a shelf. They were old wedding photographs. I don't know why I picked them up. Maybe because I was already looking for an explanation. The first few were ordinary. Different couples. Different years. Then I found one that made my hands go cold. It showed the same room, the same arrangement of chairs, the same glass panel. The photograph was old enough that the image looked faded, but in the last row, there was a person sitting alone.
Dark clothes, head lowered. I turned the photograph over. There was writing on the back, one sentence. Do not let them sit alone. I dropped it. My friend picked it up.
What does that mean? I don't know. There was another photograph underneath. Same room, different wedding, same person, same chair. I looked through several more. The person appeared in almost every photograph, always in the last row, always alone, always with the head lowered. Then I found one photograph that was different. It was from years ago. The person wasn't sitting. They were standing behind the bride. I looked at the glass panel. The reflection showed the person clearly. But in the actual photograph, there was nobody there. My friend whispered, "We should leave." I agreed. We walked back toward the main room. As soon as we entered, everyone was gone. Not literally everyone. The room was still full. But for 1 second, it looked empty. The lights flickered. Then they came back. Everyone was there, laughing, talking, eating. Nobody had noticed anything. Except one thing, the last row. There was someone sitting there again. I stared. My friend grabbed my arm. "Don't look." I looked anyway. The person slowly raised their head. I couldn't see a face, just darkness beneath the hair. Then the phone in my pocket started ringing. Unknown number. I answered. Nobody spoke. I could hear the wedding music in the background. Then I heard my own voice say, "Look behind you." I didn't. I couldn't. My friend did. My friend screamed. I turned. Nothing was there. The chair was empty. But on the seat was my phone. I was still holding my phone. I looked down at my hand. I was holding it. Then I looked at the chair. Another identical phone was lying there. Same model, same case, same cracked corner. I picked it up. The screen turned on by itself. There was one video saved on it. I pressed play. The video showed me standing in the dressing room before the ceremony. I was alone. At least I thought I was. The camera was positioned behind me. I watched myself looking into the mirror. Then someone walked into the reflection. They stood directly behind me. I never turned around. The video ended. My friend asked, "Who recorded that?" I didn't answer, because the timestamp on the video was impossible. It was recorded 23 minutes after I watched it. I checked the phone again. The video was gone. So was the second phone. I never found it. The wedding continued. I smiled for pictures. I talked to people. I pretended everything was fine, but I couldn't stop thinking about the photographs. After we went home, I searched through every picture taken that day. There were hundreds. Most were normal. Then I found one I hadn't seen before. It was taken after the ceremony. Everyone was gathered together. I was smiling. My friend was beside me. The room was behind us. And in the glass panel over my shoulder, the person was standing there again. Except this time, I could see the face. It was mine. Not similar to mine. Mine. Same clothes I was wearing. Same expression. Same wedding outfit. I stared at the picture for almost an hour. Then I noticed something worse. The reflection of me was smiling. But I wasn't. I was looking directly at the camera in the photograph. The reflection was looking at something behind me. I still have that photograph. I haven't shown it to anyone. And sometimes, when I look at it, I notice something different in the background. A chair. the same chair from the last row. And every time I check the picture, the chair seems a little closer. I know there has to be an explanation. Someone could have edited the photograph. The recordings could have been a prank. The phone could have been a trick. The photographs could have been staged. I keep telling myself that. But there's one thing I can't explain. Last night, I heard 3 knocks from inside my apartment. I didn't answer. Then I heard my own voice from the other side of the door. Very quietly. Don't go out there. And when I checked the peephole, there was nobody standing in the hallway. Just an empty chair. I have never owned a chair like that.